Pokemon Generation 8. My body was ready, but it was not ready for Galar. Galar? 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 I don't know. Galar. That is the new Pokemon region, and I'm so excited for it. So, over the last 2 years, because I say 2 years because I haven't played Pokemon Let's Go, I don't really care about it. I appreciate the effort and I like what they did, bringing in the Pokemon Go mechanics. And there's more than a few mechanics that I like from Pokemon Let's Go, but it's not a mainline game. It's not a generation, it's just kind of a thing that they did that used Kanto because everything they do has to use Kanto. But on to Generation 8. Over the last 2 years, I've played my 3DS a lot more than my Switch. And that's saying something because this came out in 2011. This model actually came out in 2015, I believe, but still, you get the point. It has DS Pokemon games, it has 3DS Pokemon games, it has all the Pokemon games up to this point. GBA, GB, GBC, DS, 3DS. Those are kind of the ones I care about. Now, the Switch, on the other hand, has Zelda. And Mario Odyssey, and a few other games, but it doesn't have Pokemon. So I played my 3DS a lot more than my Switch over the last 2 years. And I really enjoyed the 3DS Pokemon games. X and Y, Oros, Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Really good games. But I was really excited for Generation 8. And we got it now. So the leaks proved to be true. It is in what I would call kind of England, Wales, and Scotland minus Ireland. Like, the entire island of Northern Ireland and Ireland is just gone. So I guess Nintendo didn't really want to touch that, which probably means that we're never also going to get like a, I don't know, Tibet Pokemon game. International policy jokes. I'm really excited for it. The starters, which I cannot for the life of me remember the names of, but they're really cute. They're still kind of in that phase where I can see them, but I can't really know their names. It's like, oh, what's that grass one? Anyway, there's the grass one, there's the water one, and there's the fire one. Now, I'm getting major Generation 3 vibes from this game, which is a little bit weird because it's not a remake of Gen 3. We already had that on the 3DS. Like, that's not a big deal. I think it's just the cohesiveness of the presentation, because previous Pokemon games have always felt, or most of them have felt, like something's off. Like, Gen 1 is Gen 1, Gen 2 is Gen 2, Gen 3 is Gen 3. Gen 4 is where there was a little bit off, kind of. Like, it was more old than it was new. That kind of thing. Same with X and Y. X and Y was basically red and blue on 3DS with new Pokemon, so it's a very straightforward linear adventure, extremely easy story, very introductory Pokemon game. Oh, I forgot Gen 5. Gen 5, also one of my favorites. Gen 5 felt more cohesive, especially kind of Gen 5.5 with Black and White 2. Those felt really cohesive. Gen 6, as I said, Gen 7, a lot more cohesive, really good direction, but there were aspects of it that didn't really work because it was held back by the 3DS. The Gen 6 games worked well within the 3DS's boundaries because they were very simplistic looking games. But once you start heading into like full human size models, you kind of run into some issues. It doesn't work as well on a less powerful system. Now, I'm really glad that they're sticking with that for the Switch and not going back to the Let's Go Chibi style, but I'm really excited for Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. I'm going to get Pokemon Sword because it's blue. I don't know what it is with like Pokemon games and their colors, but for some reason I always side with the blue ones. Pokemon Blue is my very first Pokemon game. Pokemon Sapphire is like my forever game. Pokemon Moon, Pokemon Ultra Moon, you get the point. Pokemon X, that kind of stuff. I always side with the blue ones. No idea why. Genuinely no idea why. I think it's just most of the time that's the color I gravitate to, and I think a lot of people gravitate to that color when it comes to Pokemon games, but I'm going to get Pokemon Sword. Now, the Galar region has, I think, one of the best designs in a Pokemon game ever. Because in the regions past, it's always been a matter of, do we have the ice area? Do we have the fire area? Do we have the grass area, which is most of the region? Do we have the city area? That kind of stuff. Like, does it hit all the notes? Now, some regions have done this better than others. I mean, Hoenn, 7.8 out of 10, too much water. Just, I joke. But kind of Kanto is the first. That had kind of a little bit of everything. You didn't have as much lava or fire areas, but you did have Mount Moon, which I hate. You had the city areas like Celadon City. You had deforest areas. You did have a desert area in that game, but that was also the first gen. Second gen followed very much along the first, like pretty much the same styling of region. Gen 3 is where they started to get into the kind of, we have to have a little bit of everything thing, because they had a desert in the middle of a tropical island, I guess. I mean, it is styled on the southern region of Japan, but I don't think there was a desert there at all. But they were just trying to get their locale in. Gen 4 is where the region design just kind of went off the rails. Like, you just stick a mountain in the middle of it and call it a day. There's no rhyme or reason. Not a good design. Don't like it. And I know, just as a brief aside, this sounds like I'm just doing a gen-to-gen comparison, but I'm saying this is leading up to Generation 8. This is why I think Generation 8 is such a good generation. Gen 5 had a much better design. There was more rhyme and reason to areas. Of course, it's based on America, but it's kind of New York City, if it was a Pokemon region, if it was America. Like, it's kind of like they're taking a small thing and just making it really, really, really big. So you have your desert areas, kind of just like one route, sort of. You have your beachy areas, you have your city, of course, that kind of stuff. You have your grasslands. It's great. And I'm kind of lumping in Unova as both like Unova 1.0 and Unova 2.0. Gen 6 was okay. It's a good region. It's not particularly bad. Kalos is pretty. It's not bad. It's, once again, basically Kanto. I'm not going to count the remakes. Those don't count. I've already talked about them. Gen 7 had a really, really, really good mix, and it made sense. You had Mount Lanakila, you had Pony Valley, Canyon area. You just had a good variety of things that made sense in their areas, in their context situations. Those were good. Now, the Galar region is even better because, once again, their areas make sense in context. The further south you are, the more green, the more kind of, I would say tropical, but more lush it is. I mean, it's the south of England, so it gets pretty hot in the summer. Then you have the Midlands or the lake area. That's kind of normal. And then you have your northern areas, so basically Scotland, which for some reason I think London and the Elite Four are both going to be in Scotland. So cool. And I'm really excited for that. It looks like a good balance. You have your mountainy areas, like craggy mountains. You have what looks like it could be kind of like your gemstone, like maybe lava area. I don't know. You have your snowy, icy area, which makes it in Scotland. You have your kind of southern foresty areas. You have your beachy areas along the coasts. It works out really, really well. You have your chalk cliffs. You have all that stuff. It's beautiful. Now, back to the starters. Once again, Generation 3. I love all of them. I'm not going to go through all of the starters, but let's just say Gen 1, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander can go. Gen 2, I mean, is it really anybody other than Cyndaquil? Like, Chikorita's good too. Gen 3, Torchic, all the way, no other Pokemon, no question. Mudkip, get out. Gen 5, they're all good, somewhat. Gen 6, no. Just no. Gen 7, really tight starter lineup. Popplio was robbed. Now, Gen 8 starters, I'm getting major Gen 3 vibes from here. Like, I like all of them in their own separate way. And I was being facetious when I was talking about Generation 3. I do like all of them. Like, Torchic is great. Mudkip is great. Treecko is great. I love all of them universally. Kind of each in their own individual way. Now, the Gen 8 starters are kind of swapped around, of course. I mean, Torchic and the Fire starter look very similar. They have a very similar visual design to me, like with the head and the two kind of spiky ear/feather motifs. Love it. The Water starters, I'm getting major Mudkip vibes here. And I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. The Grass starter, I'm kind of getting a cross between like Turtwig and Treecko for the Gen 8 starter, which is a little bit weird. I like both of those starters. Did I skip Gen 4? I skipped Gen 4 earlier. Okay. I guess that says what it needs to say about Gen 4. Now, I love the starters. I love the region. However, there is, of course, one thing I don't like about Gen 8. Why everything gotta be plastic? Have some texture. Like, this game could very well be built in Unreal Engine 4. Like, there's a very good chance that if it's not being built in Unreal Engine 4, it's being built in an engine that has physical-based rendering. And I'm not saying I want, like, hyper-photorealistic Pokemon. That would be a little bit weird, as we know by Detective Pikachu. But I really want a game that's more like the 3DS games, which have a very, I think, tight style, versus less like the Let's Go. The Let's Go games are okay, but they look very, very plasticky, and I don't like the chibi, and I just rubs me the wrong way. Personal preference. Now, can we just talk about like how hardcore English this game is going to be? Because from what I'm seeing, they're going way more into the region inspiration than they did with Kalos. Kalos? Whatever. They're going way more into like the English aesthetic versus the French aesthetic. Now, Unova was like vaguely American, but in reality looked a lot like any kind of Japanese regional Pokemon game. And Kalos was sort of French-ish, French light. I don't think of it as like distinctly French, although from what I've seen of France, it is really pretty, and I guess Kalos is really pretty, so it meshes well. Like Avignon was really gorgeous when I was there, and so it's kind of that idea of like just pretty is the French aesthetic. But I think they are nailing the English aesthetic. Like what I'm getting from this is mid-20th century, old mansion, like sort of steampunk in some areas, and then you have this hyper modern London aesthetic where everything is like glass and steel and beautiful and very sculptural, and it's just so pretty. But I'm really happy they're leaning a lot more into the England aesthetic, and I'm really hoping to see them kind of pursue that full force. Now, just a couple thoughts from the trailer, which I'll have playing up here because it's only a little bit... It's not like a super long trailer, unfortunately, but it's like 2 minutes, I think. Now, 1, the graphics look great. 2, where are the NPCs? There's like no NPCs in this trailer that I see. Like in any of the environmental areas, it's just like nothing. 3, this looks like basically a 3DS game in HD. Like, if you've ever gone on YouTube and seen those, like, no lines, 4K, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon kind of things, like, where they'll do whole playthroughs in 4K using Citra, they look amazing. That's what this looks like, and I love it. 4, I know what I said about it being plasticky, but I do like the modeling, I do like the texturing. It looks very, 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 very nice. It's not at all what I expected it to be. I expected it to just use the Let's Go engine and kind of make a new region. I did not expect this level of detail and care. Although, that being said, there's a reason Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon exist. It's an asset flip. So they clearly spent way more time on this generation than a lot of previous generations. 5, I'm so excited for this to be on the Switch. Finally! I can finally play it on my TV. Like, oh my gosh, I have wanted for so many years to just have kind of an all-in-one, just very cohesive gameplay experience. I don't like the idea of just having Pokemon on my 3DS in my pocket. I want it to be everywhere, and I want the trading to be really good. 6, I hope to God this game does not go back to the stupid random encounter chart, or just any random encounter method at all. I want visible Pokemon, or at the very least, I want essentially an Oros system where you get some indication, like rustling grass, or like a tail or something. I need something. 6, maybe 7, both. Where are the new Pokemon? I get that it's a first trailer. I understand E3 is in like 3 months. I understand that they need to build up the hype. I understand that Koro needs their publishing rights. I understand all of that. But with that being said, the X and Y trailer had tons of new Pokemon, and it was revealed around the same time. Sun and Moon, tons of new Pokemon, although admittedly they did focus a lot on Alola forms, but I'll count that still. This trailer didn't have any of that. They only showed the new starters, which, okay, but they didn't show the new starters in-game like they've shown with most, if not all, of the 3DS games. They'll have their little CGI cut, but they won't have just the CGI cut. This one had just the CGI cut. It was only the CGI cuts, which I did not like. I don't like how the starters look in CGI. They look a bit like Digimon. I mean, I kind of like Digimon in a way, because I grew up around it, but they don't look like Pokemon is what I'm trying to say. 8, 7? I'll be done soon. The in-game Pokemon look so good. Going back to the 4K no-line stuff that I talked about earlier, it looks so good. It looks like what you expect a Pokemon to look like. Now, the 3DS games have fared better and worse. There have been moments where the cell shading on the Pokemon looks a little bit off. Like on some of the water types, you're like, you look furry, which is not good. But in these games, in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, they look really good. Like, the very subtle cell shading, the very subtle outlining, not heavy black outlines like regular cell shading, just enough to make it pop and not make it look like it's plastic. I think it's good. The trailer should be done by now. But those are my thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. It's only kind of been in the world for less than 12 hours. I'm really excited for it. I actually woke up right after the trailer came out, even though I meant to wake up before the trailer came out. So I literally woke up, saw the notifications from literally everybody, just every text, Instagram direct message, YouTube notification, and Google News. Everything was Pokemon. So the first thing I did today was watch the trailer, and that was great. And I'm very excited for these games. And I'm really, really hoping, I'm just really, really, really hoping there's co-op. Like, let's go. And as always, thanks for watching.